Hey guys, welcome to episode 1 of the GDX podcast. I'm your host Chris, and with me is my co-host Kaleb.
Hey guys, how's it going?
What's going on, Mr. Kaleb?
Not too much. Well, actually, you know what? That's a lie. There's a lot going on. We have 6 months worth of things that have been going on, actually.
We have 5 months. 5 months.
Is it 5 months?
It's 5 months.
Okay.
5 months.
We have a lot of things that are going on. First off, I guess I should ask the question, what is GDX, Chris?
GDX is the Gaming Death podcast, which you guys used to listen to. It's just a reinventing of us, kind of like when Mega Man X came out and they stopped doing the numbers, and then we just got Mega Man X and X1, so we became the GDX podcast. We're new, we're hip, and we're from the 90s.
We're down with the kids, and we're from the 90s?
Yeah, dab on that shit.
Yeah, that's... I won't, but thank you.
Kids still dab, right?
I think so. I think it's maybe just a meme at this point. I don't know. Internet culture moves too fast, man.
Well, you know, I was trying to explain to my brother the one day, like, if you ever have to sneeze, like, cover that shit up. You just gotta dab. Because you sneeze into the crook of your arm.
Yeah, did he just groan?
And he was like, what? And I'm like, yeah, just dab. And it's okay to do a half dab, as long as you do the one where it's, like, covering your face. You can't do the other half dab, because then it looks like diluting something else.
Yeah. No, you don't want to do the half dab with the other hand.
Unless you're a Trump supporter.
I guess unless you're a Trump supporter. Anyway.
That's what this podcast is, by the way. So, bye, Republicans.
Yeah, sorry. Well, maybe not sorry, but see you later. Anyway, what's going on with you, Chris? It's been 5 months. I know what's going on with you, but what's going on with you?
So let's explain what happened with the Gaming Death podcast, because we were doing really well, and we were a weekly podcast. We talked about video games, what we've been playing, a bunch of news. We reached I think it was 256 episodes or 276 episodes, or something like that.
Uh-huh.
I got sick. I got diagnosed with an autonomic nervous system disorder known as postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, or POTS. Basically, my heart doesn't know when to beat fast. It doesn't know to slow down when I'm moving and standing and doing stuff. It also causes me to be nauseous and to get headaches, brain fog, short of breath. It basically mimics a heart attack when I get, when it's really, really bad. And I've been dealing with that shit since basically May. I've been out of work, been sitting at home, going to physical therapy, lots of doctors. Dawn's been taking great care of me. Dawn is my wife, for all our new listeners. And it's been a hell of a ride, but I'm feeling about 20% better.
Okay.
I've also dropped 100 pounds.
Woo!
I'm down to 186 pounds.
Woo! For any of you guys who don't know, debilitating illness is a really, really good way to lose weight.
Oh yeah, that's what Dawn keeps saying, because Dawn's on the heavy side. She's like, man, don't tell people, because I put on my pants and I get that Jenny Craig ad, and she's like, don't tell people that you got POTS and show them these pictures, because then they'll be like, I want POTS.
The hot new weight loss craze.
I wouldn't wish POTS on my worst enemy, though. This shit sucks.
Yeah. It definitely doesn't sound very fun.
It's not fun. I'm just starting to get, after 5 months of being on nothing but bed rest, I'm just starting to get mobile again, the past 2 weeks. And, there's times when I feel like shit, and there's times when I'm doing really well, and there's times when I'm, I have really bad days, I have really good days, but this is something I'll be dealing with for the rest of my life. But I was told 6 months is when you start to improve, and I'm about to hit that 6 months, and I'm starting to improve. So they weren't lying.
I mean, thankfully for that.
Yeah. But let's see, what are we going to talk about tonight? Let's see, we have to talk about God of War, because we didn't get to talk about God of War.
I think we should talk about the biggest game that came out right after we stopped, which is God of War, and the biggest game that just came out, which in this case is Spider-Man.
We should talk about God of War. Let's talk about...
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about Red Dead, because for people listening, we are on the eve of Red Dead. Or Rootin' Tootin' Cowboy Shootin' 2.
Yeah, it's almost high noon.
It is almost high noon. We should talk about Spider-Man, because I just finished it like 2 hours ago.
Yeah, I honestly figured even just talking about... I mean, we have 5 months worth of gaming
and
culture to go over.
I want to talk a little bit about Octopath.
Okay.
Because I played a shit ton of that. But we're gonna talk. Let's see. We're gonna talk big releases. So God of War, Spider-Man, and Red Dead. We're gonna talk and some of the other little stuff that we've been playing. Like I know Kaleb's been playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I want to hear a little bit about that. We'll talk. We're not going to really talk much gaming news today. We'll probably get into more gaming news as the podcast goes on. But I just want this to be... I want to welcome our listeners into our... This is me and Kaleb's gaming conversations that normally happen over text. That is what this podcast is, but we're just talking to you guys. So pull up a chair, become one of our friends. You know, John, I know you're listening. You said your body was ready.
Oh, John. At least we still have John.
Yeah. And get ready for some stuff. So let's talk about God of War, which is, if not the best PS4 game to ever come out, the best PS4 game to come out this year.
Yeah, it's up there. So I'm happy to talk about all of that stuff. I honestly thought even just God of War and Spider-Man would be enough for like 2 hours worth of content, but I guess we'll see how this goes, because I know we both have a lot of things we haven't gotten a chance to. We never got to talk really in depth about God of War at all, and our experiences.
I don't really want to talk in depth about it because it's so old.
Okay.
I don't want us to feel dated.
Yes.
And everybody's talked about God of War already. And we're going to talk more about God of War at the end of this year when it comes time for us to award a Game of the Year. So,
yeah.
You know, we can...
Yeah. In my mind, it was more of just a kind of a cliffhanger to, I guess, catch up our listeners on who may have been listening to the other podcast and are now onto this, just so they know, because I know it was a big deal. We were talking a lot about it just before it came out, and then obviously POTS happened.
Yeah.
But regardless, just so more for those, I guess, for those people who were curious what we thought, since we had talked about it so much before it came out. But anyway, God of War. Chris, what are your thoughts on God of War?
It was fucking amazing, and
yeah.
I'm playing God of War as I'm getting sick. So I'm fighting Valkyries, which are like heart-pounding, very hard bosses to be fighting, while my heart rate is skyrocketing. And I'm feeling lightheaded, and my hands are getting numb, and I'm feeling like shit fighting these Valkyries. But I was so entrenched in that game that I kept playing. I was like, fuck it. I'll push through and I'll keep playing. Fucking Kratos is... They made Kratos into one of my favorite characters.
Mm-hmm.
Atreyu is awesome.
Atreus?
I call him Atreyu.
Like
from Neverending Story.
Like from Neverending Story. Yeah. No, I got that.
Okay, Boy is awesome.
Boy.
The way that...
Dad of Boy is a great game.
Dad of Boy. The enemies are great. The open world lent itself so well to God of War. It was awesome. Not having the Chaos Blades and having the axe. You get the Chaos Blades later on in the game. But
yeah,
having
5 months old spoilers.
5 months old spoilers. But having the axe and learning how to play it, the game is it's great. It's a great game. The story's great. The voice acting is amazing. It's such a good game, and I can't jizz on it enough.
It's a good way to put it. Yeah.
It's everything I wanted out of a video game.
Okay, I think that sums it up pretty well. Yeah, and for me, I would say So God of War is amazing. Is an amazing game. I would agree with you there. I think God of War is one of the biggest surprises to come out of this year, if not one of the biggest surprises to come out of the generation. And I'm saying that as someone who, I'm sure there are many like me, who, if anything, struggled to actually like the original series. I love the mechanics and the combat, and I like the idea of the original God of War games. I felt like they weren't very well written, and some of the stories were very questionable in a way that just made it hard for me to actually appreciate and enjoy them. Which is a weird thing to be saying now, because I in a million years would never have expected the game that we got to come out of the God of War franchise. In terms of how well written it is, in terms of how well made it is, just in terms of the entire package and just how much love was clearly put into every single aspect and how every single detail to make a game that it doesn't make anything. I don't know if I would say it necessarily does anything new, but the fact that it connects all of its disparate pieces in such a cohesive way that I don't know if I've seen before in a game, that just makes everything feel like one just whole piece as part of one massive epic adventure. Like every little thing you do in that game feels like it's contributing to this adventure that you're on. And I just can't think of too many other games that have that level of connectedness in all of the different parts and mechanics and features. I guess some people call it an open world game. I guess I might call it a Metroidvania, sort of. But obviously it has, RPG elements, and it has side quests, and it has all kinds of other interesting little weird things. It's just a ton of totally disparate things thrown together, which makes the cohesiveness that much more shocking and incredible. And in case you can't tell, this is stuff I've been wanting to say for like 5 months about this game, because I haven't talked to anybody about it. It was just Chris, really. And I'm still. I've been thinking of going back to it already, just because I'm not necessarily one for New Game Plus myself. I like to finish a game, and then once I'm done with it, just to kind of be done with it. I'll usually go for 100% if I like the game enough, but once I finish that, then I'm done, and I'm moving on to something else, because there's so much to play. But this is definitely a game I'll be returning to at some point soon, probably very soon, because I definitely want to go through that game a second time and give it another go to really, really sink it in.
You're not going back to God of War anytime soon. You forget when we're recording this, what month it is, how stacked next month is.
That's true.
How stacked the beginning of 2019 is.
Yeah, I've been trying to. I've been screen sharing with some of my friends in San Francisco, because they recently got a PS4, so we could play games online during the weekends. And I was trying to get them into God of War. They're not great at those kinds of games. Like, they're just not. Well, they're not great at games in general, so it makes it hard. But ideally, we'll get a chance to go through it at some point soon. But yeah, we're, like you said, we're on the eve of Red Dead Redemption. The reviews just dropped today, and it's 10 out of 10.
No,
10 out
I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear. I want to hear nothing about this game. I want to hear nothing. I was so mad that somebody in one of the groups that I'm in posted was like, "Oh, Red Dead Redemption 2's tutorial is the first 6 hours of the game," and I was like, "I don't need to hear this."
You don't want to know anything about the game going into it.
This is what I know. It's a prequel, and we're in Dutch's gang. I've only watched like the original reveal trailer and then the very first gameplay trailer. That's all I've watched for this game.
Okay.
I am like so want to go into this game blind that it's dumb. It's not like Spider-Man, where I ate up every bit and piece of information that I could get on the game. Red Dead is, I am blacked out on Red Dead. I'm so excited for Rootin' Tootin' Cowboy Shootin' 2 that...
This is a good way to put it.
Like, my ass is... I'm usually asleep between 11:30 or 12, or I would be playing at midnight tonight.
Yeah, I'm debating whether or not I want to... it'll be 11 o'clock for me when it drops. By the way, people who didn't realize, I moved to Austin from San Francisco.
Yeah.
That was a thing. Minor detail. So Central Standard Time going forward. Yeah, I can respect that. In that case, I will say you don't have anything to worry about going into this game. That's all I will tell you. From what I'm hearing, like,
who's worried? Who was worried about this game?
I think some people were. I mean, they were probably a minority, but I think there definitely are people that were a little bit, not because they felt that Rockstar wasn't up to the task. And I'm speaking from, this is my perspective as someone who really liked some of the earlier Rockstar games, really loved the original GTA games, really didn't like GTA 4 or GTA 5. Like, I can appreciate them, but I was just not a big fan of the online setup. And I felt like GTA 5 was basically just a vehicle to push GTA online, which is fine, I guess, for people who want it.
But GTA 5 is still a good game. Like, it's still a good game.
I felt like I played it for about 30 minutes to an hour and was kind of like, you know what, I've seen everything this game has to offer. That's fine.
But you didn't.
It's fun, but it's like it doesn't grab my attention in the way the older ones did.
Oh, no. Because they've... This is... The good thing about the old GTAs was the lack of technology allowed that, like... GTA 3 is a great game. It's one of the classics. It's up there with like Super Mario Brothers at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And the main protagonist never says a word.
No, he does not.
And then Vice City is really just a ripoff of Scarface. Story-wise.
Yeah, and some other, I think there's some other 80s mafia films in there and Miami films, but I mean, mostly Scarface.
But it's very big on Scarface. And then it's like, as the technology evolves, the stories have gotten more elaborate and more elaborate and more elaborate. And I hate to say this, but a little bit more realistic.
Yeah.
And it lost that like, the reason everybody liked, you know, Grand Theft Auto 3 and Grand Theft Auto Vice City was because, like, you're running around in a hockey mask and a chainsaw, and you're selling crack out of a ice cream truck. Like, there's really funky things in GTA 5, but it's like, oh, it's because you're on drugs.
Oh.
Or, oh, it's because of this, or oh, it's because of that. It never took the goofiness that GTA is known for, and it started going downhill with San Andreas, which is where I fell off the Grand Theft Auto bandwagon. Like, I'll play them. I've beaten San Andreas. I've beaten 4, but I've never beaten 5, and I own 5 on, I think, every system except for the Xbox One.
Do you really?
Yeah. And it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, this is neat, but like, the only thing I was worried was that they were going to try to GTA-ify Red Dead with RDR2.
Yeah, well, so that was my thing. Like, even if GTA 5 is a good game, because GTA Online was so popular, I thought it was going to be even less of a single-player game, and it was going to be even more stripped back, and it was going to be just a very limited thing as an excuse to drop a Red Dead Online. Which, regardless of how good GTA 5 was, I could have seen them doing, just because it's clearly making them so much goddamn money, their online system. And yeah, and I can, like I said, I can appreciate 5. It's not my thing, but like I actually bought it on a sale at one point. I have it on my system in case like my brothers come to visit, in which case that's one of the things we spend a lot of time doing. I still like it for stuff like that. It's just not like GTA 5 or GTA 4 is a weird one, I think. I mean, I at the time was perfectly ready for a more serious GTA that was going to have a more serious story and do more with its material. Like, I didn't have a problem with that necessarily, but I felt like where some of the earlier GTAs were very cartoony and GTA 5 was very serious, if anything, it went too far in that direction to the point where I didn't really appreciate the story. If anything, I felt like it was incredibly ham-fisted and took itself too seriously, to the point that I didn't think it did a very good job of trying to say what it was trying to. It just felt like the characters were awful. I didn't appreciate any of them. I didn't like Nico as much as I wanted to. I thought he was just a terrible person who sometimes philosophized, which kind of made an excuse to do more terrible things. And it just didn't vibe with me. And since then, I've kind of been off the charts. Red Dead Redemption, the first one, which is, surprise for anyone who hasn't listened, is actually maybe my favorite game of all time. It just made me very anxious to see that franchise in the hands of a Rockstar, which has changed a lot in the past 10 years or 8 years or so since it dropped.
Right.
So I was a little hesitant just to see what they would end up giving us. But after seeing some of the reviews, I'm definitely not. I'm just really curious to get my hands on it and really see how this plays out. But it sounds like, what are the limits of what I can say without getting you unhappy as far as wanting to go in cold?
It sounds like it's a good game that you can say it does the Red Dead name proud.
See, what I'm getting reading the reviews, and I'm not gonna spoil any of the content or the mechanics or anything in how I'm describing this. I'm gonna do my best to try to leave it as open as possible. It sounds like it is the Breath of the Wild of Rockstar games.
Okay, see, that's
like it completely reconfigures the open world concept in a way that's so far above and beyond anything else. I'm not sure I'll be able to go back to Assassin's Creed Odyssey after it. But that's apparently how gnarly this game is.
And I'm down with that. I'm okay with that. That's cool. So Red Dead comes out tomorrow.
Yes, it drops officially at midnight Eastern tonight, 9 p.m. Pacific time, for people who have it pre-installed on their systems like you and I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty fucking high. Go ahead.
No, if you were you're working from home tomorrow, is that what you were gonna say?
I'm working from home tomorrow. I don't have a lot going on, so I'm just gonna do that. Maybe
I don't have some emails.
So. Well, I'll see you on the road, cowboy.
I'll be on. I have physical therapy at 3:00. So from 3 to about 6, I won't be on. But I wake up at 8 in the morning, and I'll probably start playing about 10. So.
Okay. I have a meeting at 8 a.m. tomorrow, but other than that, I don't have a lot going on besides answering some client emails, so I'll probably be playing most of the day if I can.
There you go. Let's talk some Spider-Man, though, because I beat that today, and I'm mad.
You are mad, and I've actually been wanting to talk Spider-Man for a long time, which is why I was urging you to beat it, because I didn't have anyone else to talk with about it, besides people online, but I don't know them as well as I do you. It's not as enjoyable a conversation as the ones we have.
Okay. I'm going to put this out there. There are going to be spoilers because I'm mad.
Chris mad. He mad.
Chris mad. So spoilers for Spider-Man on PS4. I beat it today. Spoilers. I'll give you 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. Okay. So, Spider-Man for PS4. That game was really, really boring. Up until Act 3.
Oh, starting out strong with the hot takes.
Okay. That game is... Okay. So, the first 2 acts of the game set up Miles Morales.
Yes.
And Doc Ock.
Oh yeah, there's
that's all the first 2 acts do is set up Doc Ock and Miles Morales. And then you catch Mr. Negative and you send him to the raft, and then Doc Ock becomes Doc Ock.
Yes, he does.
And then, oh look, it's Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery, it's the Sinister Six. Yeah. And then the game got really good. And then the game ends, and then they kill Aunt May.
And then they kill Aunt May. Yeah, I really like I like Spider-Man. I wouldn't say I loved it. It has some weird pacing in its story. And I think the idea was that it was meant to be more of an overview of what it's like to be Peter Parker, as opposed to an Arkham Knight style game where you've got this one villain you're hunting the whole time. I think it's more just a glimpse into the life of Spider-Man. And I think in terms of that, it does a pretty decent job, but it's still so weird that the game is kind of like, I actually really like the story, but I definitely was like waiting for the other shoe to drop 80% of the game. And then the raft happens, which is 80% through the game. And then the rest is really exciting, but it just takes a long time to actually build up to that.
This is the thing that bothered... Okay, so if they were doing a day in the life of Peter Parker, why is it that every time I stop a mugging or a drug deal or a purse snatching, it's like 12 dudes on one person? 12 dudes don't mug one guy. That's not, I've seen Spider-Man movies, I've read Spider-Man comics, that's not how that works. Drug deals don't happen on rooftops between ex-prisoners with rocket launchers.
They definitely did not. The end of the game is a little strange.
So, like, my favorite part of that game is the open world, is like doing all the cool stuff in the open world, taking down Tombstone, finding the Black Cat tokens, doing the stuff for Taskmaster. Like, that's the stuff that I've enjoyed the most. Taking down bases. That's the stuff that swinging around the city, taking all the landmark pictures, taking all the hidden landmark pictures. That's the stuff I enjoyed the most out of Spider-Man.
Okay. So if you had to rate this game, what would you give it?
An 8 out of 10. It's an 8.
Okay. It's an 8 out of 10.
Yeah. I want a sequel. I think that they can do better in a sequel, and I'd play the shit out of a sequel to this game.
They totally can. They need another shot.
But they need to get, and it's the same flaw that Insomniac always has with the pacing of their stories. This isn't a Spider-Man thing. This is an Insomniac thing. Their stories start really slow, and then their last act is always so fucking awesome.
I haven't played the Ratchet and Clank games in a while. Are they similar in that flaw? Because I think I touched them when I was like a teenager last time.
The first Ratchet is, but then there's stuff like Fuse, which is really slow and then gets really good in the last act, or Sunset Overdrive, which is slow and then builds up to this crescendo awesomeness at the end of the game. But the thing that all these that like the Ratchet and Clank remake was really good is because they kind of combined Ratchet 1 and 2 together. So you don't get any of the slow build-up of Ratchet 1 or the slow build-up of Ratchet 2. You get, like, the high points of Ratchet 1 and 2. But what's good about, Ratchet and Clank remake, Fuse was just a bad game, Sunset Overdrive, and Spider-Man is they're open worlds, and what you can do in the open worlds are so creative and so fun, and it's just, like, the swinging aspect in Spider-Man is amazing. Like the control of the way that you control Peter, and you can jump, the swinging and learning how to get velocity and learning how to gain altitude and being able to switch all this stuff up so you look really stylish when you're swinging around the city is fucking awesome. And it's just that Insomniac has this thing with their stories where it's slow, and then big reveal. This game would have been like a 6 or a 7 out of 10 if that third act wasn't there.
I could definitely see that.
I will say that. And some of those fights are fucking hard, by the way.
Yeah, I had some struggles getting used to the combat system, and I don't know if that was just me or if it was the combat system in general. But it was harder for me than I felt like it was for most people. I definitely struggled, especially in the beginning when you have no gadgets and you're kind of just expected to deal.
The problem I had with that is with the combat system is the fact that you start out with no gadgets. So I got really good at combat with no gadgets, to the point where I played most of Spider-Man not using gadgets at all in combat.
Really?
Yeah. Like, getting, like, it wasn't till towards the end that, like, I was starting to use impact web more on dudes and shoving them in the walls and just, it's like, I can just kill them that way. But then you fate the sables, and then the sables, your fucking shit doesn't do shit against them. And you're like, okay, I guess back to what I was doing.
Yeah, I was wondering why. So I had my own problems with the game. I would also give it an 8 out of 10 for reasons that are probably the exact opposite of yours. But I was kind of wondering why it was so heavily praised. Not that it wasn't a good game, like we've talked about. I wasn't sure it was a 9 or a 10 out of 10. I definitely did not agree with that. And I was wondering why that was, and maybe it's just the fact that we haven't had a good Spider-Man game in so long that people are just happy to have something that's not garbage. And because Spider-Man is such a big character for people, that the fact that it was a pretty good game was enough for them to just absolutely fall in love with it. But what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, first off, it's a PS4 exclusive.
Yes.
So you're going to get a lot of the Sony trumpeting of best game ever, which we get a lot from, like the really hardcore Sony fans. We're hot off the we were hot off the heels of Infinity War.
Yes.
And Spider-Man was the most talked about thing aside from the snap when it came to Infinity War. The voice acting is amazing in the game. Like, the characters all feel like people. Every character in that game feels like a person.
Mm-hmm.
And it showed off, like, they knew how to hype that game up with the demos that they showed in the videos. The thing that pisses me off the most about how they showed off in the demos and stuff, they showed off the raft. They showed off the raft at E3, despite the fact that the raft is 80% of the way into the game. It's the end of the game. So everybody was like, I was like, this is all the dudes breaking out, and you're gonna go, like, when I first saw the trailers for Spider-Man, I assumed that you were gonna, like, each Sinister Six member was gonna have, like, a region of the city, and you would do a quest chain with a bunch of side stuff there, and take down that Sinister Six member, and then quest chain, and all of this would tie into this long, overarching narrative, kind of like, more or less like Breath of the Wild, where, like, you go here and you take down this divine beast, and then you go here and you take down this divine beast, and then you go here and you take down this divine beast, and that helps you defeat the boss here at the end. Or you don't take down the scorpion. Now the scorpion helps the dude at the end of the final battle. Like, that's how I thought the game was going to play out. And then when we got Mr. Wilson Fisk and the Shocker and Mr. Negative for the first, 6 to 8 hours of that game, because the story itself is only like 10 hours long. Mm-hmm. The first 6 to 8 hours, you get this, and this giant, like, Doc Ock is here, pointing finger.
From the very beginning, look, you're pointing at the Doc Ock sign.
You're picking up his goggles. Oh, fit welding suit. Oh, that's Doc Ock's suit. Oh, look, the arm just came out like his fucking arms do. Oh, he's talking about how we can do better. Why replace with a regular arm when we can make them better than they were? Oh, here it comes. Oh, nope, Doc out yet. How about now? Nope, not yet. No. 8 hours later. Oh, there's Doc Ock.
Yeah, I think I wonder if that was just one of the issues with having Doc Ock in the game at all. It's just that he is such a known entity. As soon as you show him, you have to show. Well, as soon as you show. What's his actual name, and what's the actual character's name? Like the
Otto Octavius.
As soon as you hear the name Otto Octavius and see a scientist, it's like, okay, when's Doc Ock? And it's literally just like the choir screaming, when's Doc Ock? Like there's nothing else you can do from that point except turn him into that. And if the longer you take, the worse it's gonna be. And I definitely felt that pressure throughout the game in terms of, like, when's it gonna happen? Because everybody's waiting for it, and there's not much like you can do creatively once you do introduce that. I thought they did a decent job of holding off on it until they did, but it was still just like there was a lot. It was a lot of cock teasing.
For me, what I think would have been a better use of a character is not have Doc Ock become Doc Ock in this game at all.
You think they should have held him off until the next one?
I think that they should have saved him, like, for DLC maybe, because his motives aren't great.
They're a little forced by the time you actually get to him. That was kind of weird. He's Octavius, he's Octavius, he's Octavius, he's Octavius. Suddenly, why is he Doc Ock? I guess it's Doc Ock time.
He knows he knows Spider-Man's Peter Parker.
Yes, he does.
And yet it's just like it's a flip of a switch. It's like, oh, you're my best friend, I'd do anything for you. Oh, you're my best friend, I'd do anything for you. Oh, you're like my son. Oh, yeah, you're like a father. You're my new Uncle Ben. Okay. And then it's like he becomes Doc Ock, and then it's like, oh, Spider-Man must die. I'm going to try to blow him up. I'm going to send the Vulture after him. I'm going to send Shocker after him. It's like, it felt very forced to me. And I definitely think that rather than have Doc Ock as the doctor that you were helping, I think that if you were with Dr. Connors, and that was the build-up to who he would become, and then have Dr. Connors be the final boss of the game, I think that would have been more interesting. A lot of non-Spider-Man fans don't know who Dr. Connors is.
I don't know who Dr. Connors is, I'll be honest.
Dr. Connors is the Lizard.
Okay.
But he's Peter's professor who he works for while he's in college.
Okay.
And he helps, who's doing, like, he's missing an arm, and that's how he becomes the Lizard, is he's trying to find gene therapy to grow an arm back. And when he becomes the Lizard, he becomes primal, and he hates Norman Osborn because Norman Osborn fucked up his shit. And it would have played better into the ending, I think. But at the same time, like, having Doc Ock, the giant, this is Dr. Octopus the entire time, was, you kind of get like, oh, is it going to happen now? Oh, is it going to happen now? And then when it didn't, it was just like giant cock teases.
Yeah, it's a major challenge with the character, I think, as far as what can you do at that point? Like, as soon as you introduce him, everyone knows the story. It's been told a billion times in the Spider-Man universe. It's just a matter of when.
Like, I don't know. And then, like, the thing at the end with Harry in the tank.
So yeah,
is that Venom?
My assumption and my guess is that because of the way they were hinting at it and because of the references to the symbiote, that the sequel is going to involve Harry becoming Venom.
But Harry is never Venom.
I'd be down with. No, he's not.
It's
interesting. Yeah, exactly.
It also seems like Norman Osborn has not become the Green Goblin at this point.
No, he is not, which is interesting.
Like, the Green Goblin is, like, you have two big villains who everybody knows in the Spider-Man universe, and that's Dr. Octopus and the Green Goblin. Like, they're the two biggest, adversaries of Spider-Man. Like, Green Goblin kills Gwen Stacy, and Doc Ock fucking steals Peter's body and marries Aunt May at one point. Like, these are, like, the two big villains. And to not see Norman Osborn working on the serum or being Green Goblin or even hinted at that he was Green Goblin at one point makes me kind of question, like, okay, so we know that when this game starts, Spider-Man has been Spider-Man for 8 years already. And we know he's fought the Rhino, the Shocker, Tombstone, the Vulture.
Yes.
And he's come into contact with Black Cat. Like, there's really no, like, Taskmaster, he doesn't know who Taskmaster is.
Yeah, he meets Taskmaster, which is a pretty interesting use of the character, I think, in the side quest.
Mr. Negative is created in this game. Doc Ock is created in this game. So it just makes me wonder what the fuck Spider-Man's been doing for 8 years?
Yeah, it's well, so I guess this kind of leads into my thoughts on the game. In terms of the story, so before I go too deep into it, I should say I don't necessarily love Spider-Man. I like Spider-Man. I don't like him nearly as much as some other people do. Like, I don't have a problem with the character. He's just not necessarily my thing. Like, I don't like him in the same way I like Batman. I'm not, like, super into him.
Right,
but
right,
I know he's just an incredibly popular character worldwide. Maybe the biggest in terms of comic book characters and superheroes.
Well, you have to remember that Spider-Man is, like, what the Marvel Universe was built around. So that's why he is so big.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that, and I can appreciate him for a game. I actually like some of the things they do with the story. I will admit that the pacing is weird. The pacing is very weird, and I admit they do some really weird things when it comes to Doc Ock and how long they wait to really unveil him. But I actually kind of like that. We, for the first time, I feel like there's so many origin stories of Spider-Man. I like that they were willing to buck a lot of trends, especially in that he's very seasoned. Like, he's been at this for a very long time. He already knows a lot of these villains. Like, we don't have to go over this all again. And things like that. Big spoilers for the end. I was really surprised when they decided to kill Aunt May. But at the same time, I'm not a huge fan of sacred cows. Like, I don't care as much for keeping cliches and stereotypes in stories and within character stories. I thought they did a lot of really interesting and different things with Spider-Man as a character and with his lore that some of the movies and even the comics haven't been willing to do in a really big, like, mainstream story way, which was interesting. I did legitimately enjoy the story. And I was very enthralled by it for most of the time, even if it took a little while to get going, really. And I liked what was happening, even if it just wasn't it didn't always feel pressing in terms of what you were doing and what you were supposed to be expected to do in the story. I felt like Spider-Man was a game that succeeds on a lot of different fronts, but does absolutely nothing new in terms of a game or its mechanics, like, at all.
No.
I think the biggest thing it has going for it, besides the story, which I do think is really well written, is the web-springing mechanics, which are good. But that's the only really creative thing I can think of that the game really does that is new, and that's my issue with it, really, and why I would give it an 8 out of 10 as opposed to a 9 out of 10. I think that if anything, I think I had a problem with some of the open world stuff because I felt like in a game that went so far to make sure that the swinging mechanics were up to snuff and they felt really good, I felt like everything else they kind of just tacked on, like that was their main focus to make it feel good to move around, and then everything else kind of fell by the wayside. Like, the open world events you're doing, I feel like, were things I was doing in open world games 5 years ago, which isn't bad, but when I got tired of the swinging mechanics, the open world game wasn't as strong. So, like, normally I would do everything in an open world game if I really do enjoy it. I didn't come close in this one. Like, I did a decent amount of them, but at some point I was like, I just didn't feel all the impetus. There were some exceptions. The Black Cat stuff was kind of cool. The Taskmaster stuff was kind of cool, except for the fucking god-awful go through the rings quests, which were just fucking terrible and just insanely difficult.
Oh, I find those to be the easiest. The stealth missions are the hardest for me.
Oh, I destroyed the stealth missions. I had a lot of fun with them, but that's because I just smashed through them really quickly.
The problem I had with the stealth missions is what I like to call Assassin's Creed 1, 2, and 3 controls.
Okay.
So, like, I'd be on a lamp, and I'd want to just, like, drop straight down off the lamp. and rather than dropping straight down, he'd jump out. Or I'd be on a railing, and I want to web kick a dude. But rather than web kicking the dude, I just grab the dude and pull him towards me and get seen him instantly. And it was like, I feel like I'm playing Assassin's Creed 3 again.
Yeah, that was that was one of the issues. That was the only real issue I had with the mechanics, is that they clearly spent a lot of time to make it feel very smooth and to make it feel great to travel the city as Spider-Man. I had serious issues anytime I wanted to stop. Like, I can't tell you how many times I struggled trying to land on a very specific building, or trying to slow down and like just get into a very specific spot, because it feels like the game is so constantly pushing you to jump over buildings and to just completely bypass them. And sometimes, like, I think there's a mechanic that lets you, if you're running up the wall of a building, just jump over the building completely and keep going. And I did that one time.
If you press X as you reach the top, you just jump over the building. You don't even stop at the top. You just jump over the building.
Yeah, so it feels good to try to get to places. It doesn't feel good always to try to stop at that place once you get there. It's a minor quirk, but it definitely caused some frustration in some of those levels and things.
See, the thing with me, the frustration, where it came to me was they reference so many other Marvel characters throughout the city, which is nice. Like, it's nice to see, Matt Murdock's law office, and to see the Sanctum Sanctorium, and to see the Avengers Tower. I want to know why not one other hero shows up.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of strange. Like, there's some major things happening, and at one point the city basically just becomes a nightmare war zone. And nobody...
Daredevil doesn't show up. Frank Castle doesn't show up.
Nobody's showing up to help.
Doctor Strange doesn't show up. Nobody, like, even the MCU, like, there's times where you're like, well, why didn't they show up here? And you kind of find out if you watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., like, oh, they were here doing this. That's why they weren't there helping with that. Okay, I get you now. All right. In this game, there's references to all these characters. Spider-Man is an established hero of New York. But nobody else shows up.
No, nobody has time. Nobody has time to
Silver
help.
Sable shows up, except she's a fucking villain for the first 89% of the time that you see her, and she finally becomes your friend, and then she leaves.
Yeah.
Which, for people that don't know, Silver Sable is a good character. She's like a female Punisher. She's a quote-unquote good character.
She definitely seems like an anti-hero for the first 90% of the game.
She is not an antagonist, she is a protagonist.
That's kind of funny.
And a big ally of Spider-Man. So much so that, like, she's appeared in every cartoon that's ever come out of Spider-Man. Like, she is an ally. She's like Black Cat. Like, it pissed me off so bad when they were like, yeah, here's Silver Sable. And I'm like, cool, finally, a friend. And then she was like, oh, I'm going to shoot you, Spider-Man. I'm like, what?
She definitely tries to shoot Spider-Man quite a few times.
Have Frank Castle show up and be that character for me, because that's how the Punisher originally came about. Not Silver Sable.
Trying to kill Spider-Man?
Trying to kill Spider-Man. Amazing Spider-Man 129, first appearance Punisher. It's got him with Spider-Man bending over, like, doing a backflip on the cover with Spider-Man in his crosshairs. It's the first appearance of Punisher. Norman Osborn, I think it was either Norman Osborn or J. Jonah Jameson, paid Frank Castle a bunch of money to hunt the Spider-Man. Interesting.
Okay. I'm definitely dusty on my Spider-Man lore.
I'm just a comic book fuck, so I know the shit. But,
so,
and one other thing I just want to throw in before I shut up about Spider-Man until Spider-Man 2 comes out.
Yes.
Don't introduce Miles Morales and then have two cop-outs of Peter's death afterwards, and don't kill him. That made me so mad.
It's kind of a Doc Ock situation.
Like,
in terms of once you see Miles Morales.
You're like, okay, Peter's going to die. Cool. And then he doesn't.
Yeah, I was surprised he doesn't even, spoilers, become, he's like super powered until the very end of the game. I was kind of surprised that they held back so long on that too. Even just to show up as a Spider-esque character like halfway through, that's kind of what I was expecting, instead of them drawing out that origin story so long.
We didn't even talk. I'm not even going to talk about the Miles Morales and MJ levels, which suck a dick in that game, by the way.
I didn't have a problem with them. Apparently, a lot of people really liked them.
Like, the first time I played as Miles Morales, I was like, cool, this is awesome. I love Miles Morales. He's a great character. I like Miles Morales as a character. I like him a lot better than Peter Parker because he's new. And then they were like, oh, here's another Miles level. Oh, and here's another Miles level. Oh, we're going to teach Miles how to punch, but you don't get to fight. You get to run away from the Rhino.
Yeah, you didn't like sneaking away from the Rhino in the giant shipping containers?
There was no challenge to it. The only MJ level I liked was when you broke into Osborn's apartment, and that's because they gave you a stun gun. So I could have bypassed all the guards, but I didn't.
The stun gun's pretty sweet.
I'd stun gunned everybody. I didn't have to, but I did.
No, but it feels pretty good.
Because this is the thing that bugged me about the MJ sections. Peter and MJ are broken up in this game, and they're broken up because Peter and MJ felt like Peter just didn't trust her and felt like she was always the damsel in distress. But she could hold her own. But then they give her missions where all she does is sneak and distract.
Yeah, I kind of understood what they were going for, and it kind of makes sense, but a lot of it completely collapses when you're talking about a spider creature that's 10 times stronger than a human and is fighting enemies that are 10 times stronger than a human that would step on you without a second thought. I mean, I feel like you might kind of need at least a little protection. I don't know. That was just my thought.
But I mean, like, even like before the demons show up and she's like, she doesn't do anything. She sneaks and she pushes toolboxes over.
She pushes toolboxes over. Hey, that's one of the best mechanics of the year. Pushing toolboxes over.
No, the best mechanic in that game is when you want to distract people, shooting other shit with your webs.
That's pretty good too.
Best mechanic in the game. Fucking Spider-Man though. No, it's an 8 out of 10. It's not bad. I won't get the DLC. I'll probably like do most of the marked quests, the marked stuff I still have left to do on my map. But I'm not going to track down all the thugs that I need to do. The only place I did that was Central Park. I'm not going to track down all the thugs and stop all the crimes. Because they're not fun.
Yeah.
It's chasing balloons again.
It is chasing balloons. I did enough of the open world stuff too. One thing I will say that I think this game did a really good job of that I'm surprised other games... Well, no, I'm not surprised. I'll say I understand why other games don't do it, but they don't do it because they're greedy and they're horrible. They just kind of, from the get-go, just rain costumes on you like they're candy. And I really liked that. I really liked switching to a different costume every hour and having something that was totally fresh and crazy and new.
But did you switch up your costume powers?
Sometimes.
I didn't. I used Iron Arms throughout the entire game, and then I used and now that I have the Doc Ock suit, I use Recharge, and I'm never gonna use anything else.
What does Recharge do?
It automatically refills your gadget and lets it be unlimited for a short amount of time. Oh,
yeah, that's right. I never got to play with that too much. I used the... I don't know if I really changed much. I used the health boost power and pretty much just stuck with that for most of the game because it made the most sense to me in terms of the fights I was getting into, but... Yeah, I did like the idea of having the power separated from the costume so that you could do that, though. It was a nice touch that I hadn't seen in a game before. That's the one new thing I guess I would say that the game adds, is the ability to differentiate the costumes with the powers that you're getting from them.
I still want to know why no black suit, though.
No black suit?
Yeah, no black suit.
Which black suit?
Black suit with the white emblem. There is no black suit.
Which suit is that?
That's the symbiote suit. It's the black suit Spider-Man. There is no black suit.
That's true.
There's fucking Ghost Rider Spider-Man, but there's no fucking black suit Spider-Man.
Man, I had Ghost Rider Spider-Man on at one point for like an hour during some major story quests, and I'm telling you, it was some of the goofiest bullshit I've ever seen.
See, that's why I did it.
It's great.
That's why I didn't switch up my costume.
He's talking to Mary Jane. He's got a flaming head.
I stayed in the... okay, I guess I got it for pre-ordering the game, but I had the Iron Spider suit from the start. So I just used the Iron Spider armor throughout the whole game.
Yeah, I had him. I just didn't use him too much.
Like, it was just okay. Cool. It didn't look goofy. Like, people are like, oh, that comic book skin looks great. And I'd be like, that'd be great if it was like a palette swap and the entire world looked like that. Otherwise, you just look like a fucking idiot running around as a cel-shaded sprite in this super realized world. It looks ridiculous.
I kind of like the fact that it was so weird. It just looks so out of place with the cel shading mixed in with the realistic world. It stresses my eyes trying to differentiate the suit from the actual world just because it's such a different style and it's so weird.
I don't know. Anything else about Spider-Man? Because we've talked about Spider-Man for like a half hour.
Yeah, I mean, I knew we were going to talk about Spider-Man for like a half hour, but that's okay. No, I mean, overall, like, I agree it's an 8 out of 10. I think people just wanted a Spider-Man game that wasn't bad, and they got something that was really good. Not really like a 9 or a 10, but I mean, it's people are happy, and I guess that's fine.
I'm happy with it. I'm not okay, this is the thing. I give this game an 8 out of 10. And yes, I shit on parts of this game. That does not mean that this game is shit. This is a very, very good game. It's not just a very, very good Spider-Man game. This is a very, very good game. There's just problems with it. Like, when we talk about Red Dead in like a week or two, I'll shit on parts of that too. Yeah. That's what I do.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a good note for anyone who listens to this podcast.
Right.
It's just for people like us who take these things so very seriously, and I do the same with my music and my movies and stuff. Is that even if we really like something, we still reserve the right to criticize it because in a lot of cases we still feel it's necessary, and it's necessary to call out issues things that have as opposed to just jerking it off the whole time.
And that's the biggest thing that I want people to realize when they're listening to GDX is that you can go and you can download IGN's podcast, and you can download, I think Kotaku has a podcast, and you can download.
No, don't do that one. Don't do Kotaku's podcast.
You can download the Jimquisition and fucking Giant Bombcast and all these other gaming podcasts, and everybody's going to do is praise the big games that come out. We don't. We will praise the game. It does. This is what it does well, and this is what we liked, and the story was great, and the voice acting was good, and the animation in Spider-Man is some of the best animation that I've seen in a while, and it makes you, when you're traversing certain areas, it makes you feel like you're playing a cutscene, but you're not. You're just playing a game. But at the same time, somebody needs to come out and be like, this is what's not great about this game. Otherwise, you're just in this echo chamber of everything is awesome. And that's the problem with America right now, is we surround ourselves in echo chambers.
Oh, no.
So don't do that.
We come full circle.
Don't do that. Talk to someone who doesn't have the same opinion as you. Or talk to someone that has the same opinion as you, but can tell you, like, the shitty shit about that opinion. All right, so don't hate us for shitting on Spider-Man for a half an hour, because that's what we just did. It's a great game, but here we just went over its flaws and what we didn't like about it.
And that's fun.
That's
and
what we
it's
do.
important. It's necessary, I think.
Exactly. That's what we do. I think we're good. Let's wrap this up though now, because we've been going for about an hour.
Yeah.
If you guys want to get in touch with us, you can still send us emails right now to podcast@gamingdeath.com. I don't know how long that email address is going to stay active for that. So make sure you listen to the podcast at the end. There may be new podcast, new email address for our podcast. Also, Facebook, I'm going to be setting up a group for the GDX podcast, so Facebook's not set up yet. And also, you will notice at the beginning of this episode that there is no theme song. And that's because our theme song is being created as we speak by the one and only Jake. Jake is fucking awesome. He did our last theme for us. He's doing this theme for us. He's amazing. I will go to his SoundCloud. He's releasing a lot of really awesome music. The dude sings like a fucking angel. You should go listen to the SoundCloud stuff. But that's going to do it for this evening. This has been the GDX Podcast, Episode 1. I'm Chris.
I'm Caleb.
Have a good night, everybody. We love you.
Night, guys.